Am I a professional knight? Now, the answer to that is clearly no. That's a clickbait title. I am not a professional knight because I don't get to do this for a full-time living, right? But I did see this quote from UFC fighter Sean Strickland recently that I'm going to put up here. Hopefully everyone can read it and see all of it. It was a pretty long quote, but the essence of it is someone asked him essentially is like, hey, my son wants to become a fighter, professional fighter, and Sean was like, don't do it. And he gave his reasons, the ability, the chance of becoming a professional, making money, how hard it is, essentially is what he's talking about, right? And that got me thinking. I've been kind of mulling on this since I saw it pretty much all day. I don't know how old this quote is. I didn't look up the timeline or what it's referenced to because I honestly don't care. If anything, I am not time relevant. I'm a medieval knight, right? So I don't think I care about what's in the zeitgeist or timeline of today. I just saw this quote and I've been mulling on it. And what it made me think of was, if I wanted to be a UFC, a professional fighter, what are the odds and how could I do that and how hard would it be? And the answer would be, I can't. I can't. I'm in my 40s. There's no way right now I could, or even 5 years ago, I could, start and train up if I hadn't been doing it for a long time and young. Now, many of you out there are much younger and different ages, but I was thinking about just putting myself in the shoes of if that was my dream, could I do it? And no, not right now. Maybe at a time I could have, right? And would I or wouldn't have, all different questions. But what it did make me think about is what they're really asking. One, they're asking professional as far as money. Sure, right? There's a lot more money in UFC than there is in night fighting. But also, it's about being the best, right? So could I be the best? No, not in UFC. But weirdly, I am one of the best in this sport, right? Not the best, not the top. I'm sure there's plenty of people, and I know there's people who are better than me, but I do have 2, gold medal world championships. I've won silver and gold at nationals and a bunch of different events over the years. I fight on one of the top teams in the country. I've fought against many of the best fighters at some point in the country, and I haven't had as much opportunity to travel the world due to COVID and a lot of other things, but, fought against some top fighters internationally as well. And that got me thinking, I was like, wow, how cool is it that in this sport, you can be really good without having to have the time dedication that a UFC fighter has, right? And that's partly because we're in our infancy, right? We're in infancy still. We are still learning the sport. We are still developing the rules. We are still gathering top talent, right? I hope someday that we get to the level where there's no way I could be considered a top fighter. I hope the talent escalates and grows and we have, lots of people who from young age want to do this and they grow up doing and training, and then, you're going to start seeing that evolution of sport like you see with all sports. But today, right now, you can do this and you can be a competent to good to great competitor at a national to international level without having to do this full time. How unique of an experience is that in the world of sports, right? I train, I think, relatively hard for this sport. I do not train relatively hard compared to a professional UFC fighter. I don't go to fight camp for weeks. Right now, there are camps for this. There's training camps where you can go and you can fly and train. That's not what I'm talking about, though. I have my own dedicated fight camp, right? I don't have schools that are built around me training full-time there if I'm a top fighter. I am a full-time professional, right? I work at a university full-time. I own a woodworking business. I teach firearm instruction. I'm a father to 2 kids. I'm married. I have lots of great friends and a wonderful social life. I do a lot of fun activities, and I can do all of that and still be really good in this sport. That is amazing. So it's a real opportunity for any of us to say, hey, I want to be good at this. Here's a sport you can join and you can work hard. You still got to work hard. You got to train hard. You got to be committed, but you don't have to throw the rest of your life away to do it, right? You don't have to. You hear stories about, great boxers and great UFC fighters and guys who literally say, like, it's all I do is train, right? I don't have time for other stuff, right? And like, I go, that's just not this world. It's partly because of the team dynamic. For melee, you can be a very good fighter in a melee team and be a great team player and athlete and work together. And it's not, and you don't have to be just like, you're not running, the entire day of one-on-one for a huge event and you have to train for that one event and you get your big payday. None of that stuff exists, right? But what it is the capability and the mindset to join into something, work really hard, and then see rewards that you don't get in most places. I just think that's really cool, and that's what I've been thinking about, is how grateful I am to be in this sport in this era and this time where I can, I would say like most weeks, I train hard 2 to 3 days, right? 3 days, 2 3 days, and I train for 5 days. So I do other exercise and workout, and some weeks it's all 7, and some it's up. I'd say that's an average, right? Now that doesn't mean I don't put in my time. At least once a week I go down to the Knights Hall and I put in 3 to 4 hours. Right, in one night there for sure. I go to, a gym and I work out for 2 hours. I have my own home gym here. I work out here all the time and I train here. But I can do all that while maintaining the rest of my life and not really having to sacrifice much. And how unique is that? Like, how interesting is it that we can do that in this really awesome sport, be fantastic, fight at high level, fight against great competition, and then be able to go home and go, hey, I get to run the rest of my life. And also not be all beat up to the point that I can't go to work tomorrow. I've had my injuries. I'm sure I'll have more. But, I don't know if you saw the Tyson Fury fight. I'm not going to tell who won or didn't. I don't care with that. But I keep seeing pictures of Tyson Fury's face, and it's not that bad. He's got a big black eye. He's got cuts over his face, whatever. Like, I can't go into my office the next day like that, right? Every time I go to a match. And how often do the UFC guys fight or the boxers fight, right? How often do you really compete at that? Because your body has to recover. Well, we do tournaments every weekend sometimes, right? There's Renaissance Fair fighters who are doing a show, every weekend for months, and usually they're fine. What a crazily unique and interesting sport to be in, where we can go full contact, hard as we can, swing weapons at each other. You can fight the top competition in the country, or, in your country or your region or your world. I'm talking about most of the U.S. And you can do all of that and then go to work the next day. Like, it's just made me feel really grateful that if someone asks me, no one's going to ask me, hey, Chuck Goodwin, Woodchuck Knight, can I make a living at this and be the best? And I'll say, you can't make a living at it, but you can be the best. I don't have to give Sean Strickland's answer of, don't put your time in, it's too risky, it's not worth it. The answer with this sport is, it's worth it. If you could do me a favor, if you're looking for weapons, go to Canadian Bowhurt, links down below. They sponsor me. If you mention them, I'll mention Woodchuck Knight to them, they're going to give you 10% off your order. If you're in the New Hampshire area and you want to go to Root Awakening, a kava bar over in Nashua, and mention Woodchuck Knight or the Knights Hall, they will give you 20% off your order. That's kind of a little local deal we got going. It's pretty awesome. If you hadn't had kava before, I would recommend trying it. It's a really cool drink made from roots from the Caribbean islands that just kind of calms you and relaxes you. It's super refreshing. It's really cool. And then finally, most importantly, I'm just kidding, but go to my page, woodchuckknight.shop, and you can buy really cool merch to help support my channel and support me and get really cool stuff. Like, subscribe, follow, all that cool things. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about this video and if you agree or disagree with my opinion.